So, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the Torah lesson on the Torah portion. And today's story is we're going to discuss in today's story our ancestors Yitzchak and Rivka. So, of course, one of the main characters, Yitzchak or Isaac, a bit about him. So a bit about Yitzchak, who is one of the main characters of the story. The name Yitzchak or Isaac is a very strange name. The Hebrew word for Yitzchak, it comes from the word laughter. What a strange name for a baby. What were their parents thinking? What was Abraham and Sarah thinking? Avram and Sarah. What were they thinking? What a strange name. So what causes laughter? Why do people laugh? What is laughter? So usually, this is late at night, there might be other rules, but usually laughter is when there's so much joy and it can't be contained. You just start laughing. Especially when there's something that's unexpected or some type of surprise that brings such a joy, such a laughter that just can't be contained. And think about a good joke. A good joke is something. There's always going to be some element of surprise, of something unexpected, which is what makes it funny. And this is exactly why Yitzchak got his name. Yitzchak meaning laughter. Yitzchak's birth was a surprise. It was a pure miracle because Sarah, his mother, was elderly. She was 90 years old. So this was a pure miracle. She was not expecting to have children at that time, and so this is totally unexpected. So Yitzchak got the name laughter. There was so much joy, especially because it was such a big miracle. But it doesn't stop here. Yitzchak would become the father of a people whose destiny would literally go against all odds, and their survival, Jewish people's survival, would of course be a surprise and be totally unexpected. It would defy all odds. Yitzchak himself, he possessed down the line, once he matured and he had a certain path in life, he would possess the power to transform. So to find the goodness in the most unlikely places. So again, the unexpected, where some people might say, oh, there's nothing good here, there's nothing interesting to find, let's focus our energy someplace else. Yitzchak would somehow find that positivity, find that goodness. This also expresses itself through Yitzchak's main occupation. Yitzchak's occupation was different to all of the other of our ancestors. Most of them were shepherds, and they would spend a lot of time in the field and things like that. Yitzchak was a well digger. What's the idea of a well digger? You're digging something up. You need to somehow find the unexpected, right? You don't know where the water is, where the spring is, where the river is. You need to have a certain understanding and a certain faith and a certain belief that you're going to find it here. And Yitzchak, again, was about the finding the unexpected, making the surprise happen. And that's the laughter. That's the joy of experiencing something that's a total surprise, something that's completely unexpected. And from Yitzchak, we learn how to try to be joyous even in challenging times, because just around the bend, there could be a good surprise coming. So Yitzchak teaches us how to try to, stay on the course and stay positive, even in challenging times. And Yitzchak did have challenging times during his lifetime. And from Yitzchak, we get the power to be able to create laughter, to be able to find the truth and find what's hidden, find the treasure beneath the surface of reality. So that's just a little bit about the name of Yitzchak before we get into the story, the actual story and stories that we're going to discuss today, just to understand the background of who Yitzchak is, why he was named this, and what this all represents. So this is something very powerful about Yitzchak, the unexpected, the joy, the laughter, and his power to be able to uncover what's hidden deep within. Okay. So now to the story, unless anyone has any comments or questions about that. Okay. So moving right along, we have Yitzchak and his wife Rivka. They very much wanted to have children, but unfortunately, they had 20 childless years. So as much as they tried, as much as they went to doctors, as much as they prayed, they were not able to have children. Finally, after 20 years, their prayers were answered and Rivka became pregnant. But it was a very difficult pregnancy. I'm just looking at the text. The Torah says the children struggled inside of her. It was a struggle. What does this mean? What type of struggle was there? So the commentaries say that every time she would pass the house of study or the synagogue, whatever you want to call it, she would feel kicking. Someone in there got excited, wanted to come out. But then she would pass the house of idol worship and she would feel kicking again. Someone would get excited. So she didn't understand what is with this baby, what is with this child that is getting excited both about holiness and the opposite of holiness. So what is going on? So she went to two of the great people of that generation. Their names were Shem and Aver. They were the ones who were in this study hall that we were just talking about. But she went to find out from them what is going on. Maybe they had some idea. Maybe they were able to give her some direction and some understanding as to what was going on. And what they told her was that she has two nations in her womb. So she was pregnant with twins, and they weren't just twins, but they would become two different nations, quite different nations. And once she understood what was going on, so probably made it a little bit easier, but still it was she went through the pregnancy and there was this constant struggle between these two boys who would be born. Some of the time one was trying to get out because there was something holy in the vicinity, and at other times when there was some unholy place or spiritually impure place, that was where the other one was trying to get out and trying to make his voice heard. Okay, so that was the pregnancy. In fact, 9 months go by, and actually that's not accurate. It was a 7-month pregnancy. They were born early. I guess they couldn't contain themselves. And 2 boys were born. First Esav, and then Yaakov, or Jacob. And the boys started to first they were the first little babies, then toddlers, and they started to grow up. And it started to become clear, their nature started to become clear from a very young age. Yaakov, the younger one, gravitated. He was studious. He was well mannered, respectful, kind, nice, and he gravitated to the study hall. He was the studious one. He wanted to study and pray and all of that. Esav, just again looking at the text in front of me, it says, the two youths grew up, and Esav was a man who understood hunting, a man of the field, whereas Jacob was an innocent man dwelling in tents, referring to the tents of Torah study and the like. So you had these two different kids, completely opposite kids with opposite natures. Esav was the wild one. He was out hunting. He was out in the fields. He was rebellious, disrespectful. And Yaakov was the opposite. He was the well-mannered, the kind, the studious, the one who gravitated to the tents. He sat and studied and prayed. And I'll continue with the last quote that I'm going to read here, at least for the story. It says, and Yitzchak loved Esav because his game was in his mouth, but Rivka loved Yaakov. So their father Yitzchak, he had a favorite. He preferred Esav. Rivka preferred Yaakov, the younger one, the well-mannered and studious one. So that's the story. That is the story of at least the first part of the story, when we understand the pregnancy, the birth, and the early life. Now, if you think about it for a moment, how could it be that by nature, Esav was drawn to idol worship and to spiritual impurity? How could we say that this was his very nature? And we do know this because even during the pregnancy, Esav was trying to get out, and he was getting excited when they passed the house of idol worship. But how could it be that this was ingrained in his nature? What about free choice, right? So people should be, when we talked about this in the past, we had previous discussions about free choice. People do have free choice, and Judaism believes that people do have free choice, certainly when it comes to choosing good or bad, right and wrong. So how could we say that? How could it be that Esav was naturally drawn to impurity, to idol worship? And by the same token, how could it be that Yaakov was drawn to holiness and to godliness and to study and prayer? How could it be? Don't people have free choice? That's the first question. The second question is about Yitzchak, their father. Yitzchak was a saint. He was holy, perfectly righteous, one of our ancestors, one of our greatest people. How could it be that how could it be that Yitzchak, their father, preferred Esav over Yaakov? How could it be that he preferred the wild kid who was running after hunting and as opposed to Yaakov, who was sitting in the tents and studying and learning? How could it be that Yitzchak's favorite was Esav? Okay. Any ideas why this might be? How could it be that by nature they were drawn to their different ways, and how could it be that Yitzchak preferred Esav, the wild one? Any ideas?
I know what it says in the Bible.
Okay.
He liked the meals that he prepared.
Okay. Was Yitzchak that shallow that if he made him good food, that he was his favorite son. I mean, that is what the Torah says. But is that enough of an explanation that Esav made him good barbecues, so he loved Esav more? I mean, Yitzchak was a holy person. He was a completely righteous, completely perfect. I mean, is that enough of a reason why Yitzchak would prefer Esav, the wild one?
Well, he was also the oldest son, and it might have been maybe Rebecca didn't tell him that she was told by God that the older will serve the younger. Maybe she kept that in her heart, and he was just thinking he's going to receive the inheritance, and that so he had a special place in his heart for him as a result of that.
Okay, that's good. That's good. We're going to get to some of the points that you just made. We're going to get to, especially about why, how could it be that Rivka knew something that Yitzchak didn't know, and why didn't they discuss it? Hopefully, we'll get to that. But I like what you're saying. I'd like to give a deeper explanation and a new understanding of this whole story, which will give us a new perspective and also answer the question of that we put on the title. What is the best type of Jew? You won't believe what is the best type of Jew. And the answer is like this. The answer is that everyone has their own mission. Some people have it easy. Some people have a simple life, a very straightforward life, a very smooth life. They find themselves in a holy environment. They don't have any special challenges. They're by nature, they're calm people. They don't have a desire to sin. They're by nature studious. They enjoy a spiritual environment. So they enjoy Torah study. They enjoy prayer, and they enjoy, this positivity, this only good, not getting into any trouble, only, just being the goody. So some people by nature are that goody type of person, and that might be their mission. Their mission in life is to follow that path and, just do good and be kind and, do whatever has to be done, but without any special challenge or struggle. This is their style. This is their way. This is their path. That's their mission. But there are others who are entrusted with a much more difficult mission. These people are the people who struggle. They're not in the synagogue all day. They're not in the study hall, and they're not necessarily supposed to be there. Or maybe they should be there for some moments of the day. But that's not where they spend their time. That's not where they hang out. That's not their place. Their place is in the world. They engage with the world. They engage with society. They find themselves in places that are quite far from anything that resembles holiness or godliness. So they could be in the most spiritually dark places, if you will. And these people have their own mission. They have a different mission, and because they're in a more difficult situation, they're in a more difficult setting, they have real struggles and they have real challenges. There are negative influences. There's a spiritual darkness, and so they have it difficult. They have a real struggle. But what is their mission? Why are they there? They are entrusted and their responsibility is to bring good and to bring positivity and spiritual awareness to dark places, to spiritually dark places, to places that are spiritually dangerous, if you will. And not only spiritual, but bad places where there's a lot of negativity and a lot of bad things going on. This is their mission. So compare these two missions. The first person has it easy. They might be doing good all the time. They might be following a very righteous and easy path, but it's easy. There's no struggle. The other mission is to bring bring the good and the godliness to bad places or spiritually and dangerous places or Jewishly dangerous places. And it's a real struggle. These people, because of the struggle, because of the challenges, they're going to fail. They're going to fail, but then they'll stand back up. And so it's a fight. Sometimes they're going to win. Sometimes they're going to lose. They need to resist the evil, but it's a roller coaster, and it's a struggle, and it's a real challenge. Sometimes they'll fall, but then they'll stand up, and then they can fall again, but then win the next fight. And this is their mission, and this is the way they accomplish their mission and achieve their mission by being in these difficult situations. So why was Esav kicking when they passed a house of idol worship? It wasn't because he was destined to rebel against God. It wasn't because by nature he's a bad person. On the contrary, his mission was to light up these places, to light up with godliness, goodness, and positivity. So when they passed the place where there was Torah study going on, Yaakov started kicking because that was his mission. His mission is just to have a simple, straightforward life and serve God and do just good and kind things all the time. But then they passed the idol worship, the house of idol worship, and Esav was kicking because that was his place. His place is the dark places, or the world as we know it, where there are powerful winds of society, powerful forces that make it difficult and make it challenging and make the struggle very real. And that was the story of Esav's life. And this is exactly why Yitzchak preferred Esav, because Yitzchak understood the power and the value of this mission. Yitzchak understood the power of to transform. So to take something that is negative and turn it around and change it over to something positive. Yitzchak appreciated the one who has the struggle, because yes, it's true that the person with the struggle is going to fail. The person with the struggle is going to fall. That is the nature of this mission. But Esav appreciated the comeback. He appreciated the pushback when they would stand up and fight and have a small victory, even if it's a small victory. But he appreciated that victory because it has so much more value. It's so much more appreciated because of what it takes, because of the effort that it takes, and the difficult situation that the person is in. This was Yitzchak's hero. So his hero wasn't the person who's sitting doing good things in the synagogue all day. It was the person who has the real struggle, the person who fails, but also from time to time is able to stand back up and then win the fight. That was Yitzchak's hero. And what Yitzchak teaches us is that this is the Jewish hero. The Jewish hero, most people will think that the perfect person is the hero. But what we learn from Yitzchak is that the hero is the regular person, the person with struggles, when they resist, when they stand up, when they bring light to the dark place, and when they make a transformation and turn something negative into positive, when they're able to push back against bad habits, when they're able to stand up for what's right, even in a place where it's not popular, in a situation where it's not easy. That is Yitzchak's hero. That is the Jewish hero. So it's not about, the hero is not the person who is perfect. It's the person who has the struggles, has the challenges. They're gonna fail, but they become the hero when they push back, when they stand up and win the fight. At that moment, they are the perfect person. They are the Jewish hero. And that's why Yitzchak preferred Esau, because he understood this. He understood the value, and he appreciated the struggle and the win, even the small victory that would take place. That was Yitzchak's hero. So this explains that in fact they did have free choice. They're just put in different situations, and it also explains why Esav, why Yitzchak, who was such a righteous person, how he was able how his favorite was able to be Esav. Now, in the end of the story, Esav failed at his mission. So he became only more and more wicked. And at one point he wanted to kill his own brother Yaakov. So it didn't end well. But that doesn't change Yitzchak's belief in who Esav was. And so when it came time to share a blessing, I'm confusing the names here, I'm sorry. Yitzchak had this special blessing that he received from his father, and he was going to choose one child to receive, to pass this blessing on. For some reason, it could only be one of them. So who would he choose? So he chose Esav, because even if Esav was not behaving properly, Yitzchak believed in him, and he believed that with these blessings, he would have the power to turn things around. So because he saw this type of person as the Jewish hero, because he saw this person with the struggle as the real challenge and the real hero, that is why he favored Esav. Okay. So this is the answer. What is the best type of Jew? Best type of Jew is not the one who spends all of his time in his or her own bubble and just thinking, okay, I'm Jewish. I'm supposed to do things for God. I'm supposed to do things for other people. Let me stay in my own bubble. Only focus on that. Yeah, that's a great way. That's fantastic. That's righteous. That's good. But the person who has the real struggle, the person who has the real challenge, and they're going to the dangerous places, and they're doing the real unexpected things, and turning things around in a way that nobody believes possible. That is the real best type of Jew, and we learn that from Yitzchak. Any comments or questions about that? I see there's a few notes in the chat box. I see Shirley was answering the question that I asked earlier. I'm sorry, I didn't notice that. I like what you're writing. Very good. Okay. Any other comments or questions before?
I do have some comments.
Okay, please go ahead.
I would say that in light of what you're saying, we can compare that to the situation with Yitzchak's father, what he had to go through. Now, his father had to make two offerings. The first one, the consequences of the first one was that the children of Israel, or the Jewish people, had to wound up spending at least as the Bible says, 400 years in a land that was not their own as slaves.
Right.
And then, but then he was given another opportunity to make an offering. And this was an offering that there was no negative consequences, except for the fact that he would wind up having to kill his own son. When he was given the second opportunity
right.
to do that, then his father had to go through one, if I may say, hell of a struggle, because there's nothing more painful. I mean, the only thing that could be more painful than giving up your own life is giving up the life of your child, and this is what he was asked to do. So his father, talking about, struggle, his father had to struggle with this, and it wasn't, and his father was willing to do it. And he must have been proud of his father and loved his father incredibly, because he was old enough to know that he was going to be the sacrifice.
Right.
Because
so you're saying perhaps he received this understanding and this belief system from his father.
Yes.
Okay.
And well, but he also exemplified it himself, because
right.
because he himself knew that he was going to be a sacrifice, and he didn't say a word, he didn't protest.
Right.
He was totally willing. He totally trusted his father.
Okay.
Honored his father.
Well
and
said.
He was willing to go through that. Now that was in light of why he could appreciate his, as you're saying, his or is that the Midrash is saying, his son who had to go through his struggles. But also another aspect to this is that you were saying, like, why does some people have to go through that kind of trials, those kinds of trials, when somebody could be a goody-goody type of person, he just stays in the bubble. And I think it says in Isaiah that I believe his God is absolute loving, and God is a God of love, and God is absolute, and his will be done, as it says, I think in Isaiah, I have purposed and I will do it. And I think God's will is for all of us, all of his children, to be godly people. And in the first family, in Adam and Eve's family, we also have an elder son and a younger son. And the elder son is just like you said, Satan was crouching on his door, it says, right? So he also had to go through this kind of a struggle, but he failed. He wound up killing his younger brother. So in this case, I believe that God's will is done. So we inherit. Why does so? I think that both Jacob inherits Abel's spirit, who was successful in the offering, and Esau inherits this kind of an attitude, rebellious type of an attitude, and sometimes, but but in any case, he had to deal with the darker side, and
right.
he wasn't able.
I think you're bringing up an interesting point about what does God want and what does God prefer. So I think what we're saying here is something very interesting, that there are people with different missions, and God appreciates and wants both of them. So sometimes you're in the mood of a sweet food, and sometimes you're in the mood of a spicy food, right? Why would you want something spicy if it hurts in a way? But there's a special pleasure and enjoyment to a spicy food, right? So in a way, different missions that God gives different people, they're all necessary and they're all needed and they're all appreciated by God. Sometimes it's the sweet one that's needed. Sometimes it's the spicy one. Esav is the spicy one. He's the one that's the unpredictable one. It's the one that has the challenge. It's the one that has the struggle. But there's so much value, and there's so much to appreciate in that in that person's life. I just want to finish off with two small points, to tie up the whole story, so we get a nice full picture here. So first of all, we were talking in the beginning how Yitzchak was a well digger. He would dig wells. That's what he was doing all the time. So it happens to be that there were some haters who couldn't stand Yitzchak. Unfortunately, made his life a little bit difficult, and they were the ones who stuffed up some of the wells that he worked hard. Him and his people worked hard to dig. So it actually says that the first two wells that they dug up were stuffed up by these people. The third one was left untouched, and they were able to use it, and they were able to enjoy it. The Nachmanides, the Ramban, who lived about 1,000 years ago, gives an interesting commentary. Says that these three wells are compared to the three holy temples. The first two holy temples, they stood for a while, but then they were destroyed. But the third holy temple, when it's going to be built in the era of Mashiach, when Mashiach comes, that one is going to be at a time of peace, and that one is going to remain standing. So here you have something, some more, a more Kabbalistic explanation, if you will, about these wells and what they represented. The end of the story is, we started saying this before, that Yitzchak was getting older. He was actually blind as well. There are different reasons, different commentaries to understand how he became blind and why he became blind. But that was the fact. And he knew that it was towards the end of his life, and he wanted to give the special blessing that he received from his father. He wanted to choose one of his children to pass it on to. And of course, his choice was Esav because of his belief system, because of his perspective and his way of looking at the world. But Rivka, we know, favored Yaakov. She favored the goody-goody. And so Yitzchak loved how Esav would hunt animals for him and prepare nice food, like Paul mentioned. And so Yitzchak told Esav, why don't you prepare for me a nice meal, and after I eat, I'll give you the blessing. Rivka overheard this, and she made a plan so that Yaakov could receive the blessings. And what she did was, she told Yaakov, I'll prepare food. I'll dress you up in Esav's clothes. I'll do some things that will make you smell like you're coming from the field, or you're a hunter. And then you walk into your father, because he's blind, make as if you're Esav, and that way you could receive the blessing. So, to trick your way into receiving the blessing. And that's in fact what happened. Yaakov successfully tricked his father into receiving the blessing, and he in fact received the blessing. This is we mentioned before, why didn't Rivka and Esav have this conversation? Why didn't they discuss their children, at least in this way, to understand who's deserving of it? If Rivka felt that Yaakov was deserving of the blessing and not Esav, why go through this whole why deceive her husband? Why play this game and trick their way into receiving the blessing? And what the commentaries say is that Rivka, their mother, understood 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 Yitzchak's perspective, and she understood that there was something special about this type of person who struggles and and then from time to time is able to push back and wins. So Rivka knew that, but she also knew something about Esav that their father Yitzchak didn't know. What she knew, because she wasn't blind and she was perhaps more in touch with her children, she was able to understand that Esav already failed and that this turnaround and this transformation is not happening. So even though this might be the better way, but Rivka saw that it wasn't working. But she wouldn't want to speak negatively about her own son to her husband. And the same thing is about God. God had certain conversations with our forefathers. Why couldn't, if God wanted Yaakov to receive the blessings, then why couldn't he just tell Yitzchak straight out, listen, Esav is taking a bad path. Yaakov is more deserving of the blessings, but neither God nor his wife Rivka chose to speak to him about this and say, oh, Esav is wicked, he's bad, this transformation is not happening. Why did they not share this information with Esav? And the answer is an important lesson that we should never speak negatively about someone. So it might be your own son to your own spouse, it might be God, you might have the best of intentions, but we shouldn't be speaking bad about people. We shouldn't be speaking bad about people. So Rivka preferred to play a whole game and play a whole trick against her husband and against Esav, only so that she shouldn't have to start bad-mouthing Esav. And God the same. God wouldn't reveal this information to Yitzchak because this is a lesson. This is a lesson that of the importance of speaking only good about people and not bad-mouthing or speaking negatively about them. One final point about the actual blessing. The actual blessing starts with the Hebrew words "V'yiten lecha." God should give you, and it talks, and the blessing was all of the things that God should give, and beautiful blessings, wonderful blessings. The commentaries say, what does it mean "V'yiten lecha"? It's a language. The language that is being used is a language of that the giving should be repeated. So like repeated giving. So the commentaries try to understand what is this language of repeated giving? Why is one time not enough, right? So if you're receiving a blessing from God, a blessing should be perfect. If the blessing is perfect, why would it need to be given again? It shouldn't have to run out. It shouldn't have to be recharged or redone. So what is this idea of this repeated giving? And the answer is that there are two types of giving. And take an example of a teacher and a student. A teacher could teach a student information, so that's simple and straightforward. Or a teacher could do more for the student and actually give the student the skills to be able to be creative and to come up with new ideas and to discover new knowledge and just make new discoveries. And of course, the second one is the best way. Instead of don't give me a fish, teach me how to fish. That way I can get my own. And that was the blessing that that Yitzchak was saying should be given to you. Yitzchak was saying, this is your blessing. There's going to be this repeated giving, because I'm not just giving you a blessing. I'm not just giving you a blessing that you should have something, but the blessing includes the power and the ability to discover new things yourself and to be able to bring more good to your life, more success to your life, and more blessings in your life, with this original blessing. So the original blessing is what gives the power and the ability to recreate that and to continue and to discover and to find new things within yourself and new avenues, new opportunities for success and for good things and for blessing. So this is more or less the outline of the story of the Torah portion, with some deeper explanations and deeper insights. But I think the most powerful idea of this Torah portion is who is the real Jewish hero. And what we discovered was that it's not the perfect person that is the Jewish hero, but in fact, it is the person with the struggle who will often fail, but when they stand up and when they push back, they resist and make this transformation, make this turnaround and this comeback, they are the Jewish hero.